Just like to point out earlier on this week, or not this week, but last week before I went and saw the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I talked about how they should make a Star Wars poster, but someone made this concept Star Wars poster that looks amazing. This is it. The thing's awesome. Guys, you most likely just saw that I brought our intro back that I only did in one video that ended up having some communication problems in its final form, and it was the Shazam video that I worked hard on. But anyway, I am here to finally talk spoilers about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, the thing about this is the reason why I didn't is because I kind of went into detail. I watched it a second time. I started flipping through the soundtrack to find every little detail about this movie and what the soundtrack might have given off and like the meaning behind some of the things in the soundtrack. So now I can talk about it more and it actually be pretty decent. And I'm actually really excited to talk about this movie because, man, guys, this was a masterpiece. So let's go ahead and just start with the little intro. And immediately we see the Guardians in the Marvel logo, and that was amazing just to kind of celebrate it since they're celebrating their legacy coming to an end. Just as how in the Black Panther Wakanda Forever they did the same thing in tribute to Chadwick Boseman, so he could be like more like they could honor his legacy as Black Panther and how his legacy had came to an end, similar to what was going on with the Guardians here. This was the end of their legacy, and with the opening of this movie, we get Baby Rocket looking up as the High Evolutionary just goes and grabs his face and seeing his face kind of age, and then we get a more sad intro compared to what we got in the last two movies, where we had Come and Get Your Love in the first movie and Mr. Blue Sky in the second with Baby Groot dancing. And I honestly just think this was a great little intro to do. And High Evolutionary, man, I never hated an MCU movie as much as I've hated this guy. And I mean, this scene where he even finds Peter drunk because he's depressed about Gamora. This movie just kind of has a sad start, even with all the comedy in it. And this is the point where we get Rocket's listening to music, and there's a hint in that earlier on in the movie. If you've seen any of the promotional material for this movie, you should know that this movie has a lot of Baby Rocket's origin story in it that is just like sad, and it kind of goes on quickly at times, and like it's hard to watch at some point. And what I mean by we get a hint to him liking music is when the High Evolutionary is taking care of him earlier on in the movie, before he was listening to Peter Zune while he was going on like that. He was all the time enjoying Peter Zune. It's just like tragic knowing that we even saw in Volume 2 that Rocket does like music. He enjoys it. He knows it's good. Like, he likes it way more than he, like, admitted to in Volume 2. And that's, like, just something that they kind of implemented into his origin story that I loved. Thing that I just think is maybe this intro that happened did need to be darker. Like, this whole movie kind of has more serious like vibes, and like this intro was just like so sad, even knowing like what happened to Rocket. Like, we didn't fully understand it, but we did see that he enjoyed music, as I just talked about. But when he gets to Peter, like, we get small information that since the holiday special, he's kind of became a drunk because of Gamora. And if they wouldn't have had to take care of Nowhere during the holiday special, we would have seen him like that in the holiday special, and that would have killed the entire vibe. So that's just kind of giving off, like, the effect of sadness that, like, I knew from the start of this movie it was going to be a gut puncher. And then they get to them carrying Star-Lord completely unconscious and knocked out, and we get a little bit of just sad sequence, like even when Peter says to Nebula, "I love you, Gamora," and like that look on Nebula's face, like that was my sister. Like Nebula lost something too, and like Mantis said, we can try to get her back, but Drax was just straight up like, she's dead to us. Anyway, we get to see like things like Cosmo and Kraglin trying to learn his arrow, and the running joke between Cosmo and Kraglin that Cosmo's a bad dog. And I just love this. Like, Cosmo was a great part of this movie. Like, I really think her and Kraglin fit into the movie perfectly, to where I figured their characters would be kind of annoyances sometimes. But no, I genuinely enjoyed what they had to offer this movie, and it was just awesome. And another thing that I just like to bring up right here is this is where we get the introduction of Adam Warlock. And this is also where a bunch of controversies come up about the movie. People are mad that they dumbed him out kind of, but and we even learned that he just released from his cocoon. He's not going to be at his full potential. So I do want to say anyone who just came to see Adam Warlock is just like done, because he's kind of stupid in this movie. But after a rewatch, I don't even think that he's that like dumb, or like, because I get he's dumb at some point because he's trying to train that little dog or whatever it is. But after you watch it, that's literally like the only dumb part that makes him seem dumber than he actually is. Because when he kills Warpig says, "We're working for the same boss," but he goes, "No, but this kid saved my entire civilization," which made it sound smarter. He was just on his job, and when he first came down to nowhere to fight the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm about to start talking about, he was like a brutal, like, not really brutal villain, but a very like kind of different style. Like, he was smarter in that scene. Like, he was using his wits and brains. He wasn't like people are saying he is, saying that he's stupid and that he was underused in this movie. And I do agree with that second statement. Adam Warlock was underused in this movie. I do not think that he was as bad as people has made him out to be. And then we just get Rocket getting knocked unconscious, seeing the other Guardian members mad. They figure out he has a kill switch. They're just like super sad about his death, and oh my gosh, like, no, Rocket didn't even die in this movie, and he still had so many like gut punching scenes. And then we get to see the first of his origin while he's in his coma, seeing him just shaved up, all destroyed. The first words he says is hurts. It's just kind of heartbreaking, seeing things like in this scene when they're taking off to go find out how to fix Rocket, and try to do it when they're playing Since You've Been Gone, saying like Rocket. The irony here is, because if you don't know, Teves, Floor, and Lila all die in this movie, and like saying that Rocket has kind of been in a dark spot since they've been gone, since that was the song that they played. I've really worked hard on this. I know that doesn't really work well, but I've just been trying to match songs with scenes, because there's some where it's actually very believable. And yeah, from there we get the Ravengers and things like that going on, because we see Nebula made an appointment with Gamora, and Quill's still obsessed. I don't know how I feel about that. Personally, though, like, I don't know. I mean, if I was in Quill's position, I wouldn't have tried to get Nebula to fall, Gamora to fall back in love with me, which was my problem. But I also enjoyed that they just didn't make them like just magically come back together and be boyfriend and girlfriend again and just start dating, which that would have been like so cringe. I watched like 10 spoiler reviews before this. I also constructed a few of my own theories about what's going to happen in the future of this franchise. And honestly, yeah, I don't his Quill had like some fun moments with Gamora in this movie. Like at the end when she's like, I bet we're fun. Yeah, I just love those little things like that. She's knowing that that happened in another universe, and then Gamora's just kind of gone from there. And I really enjoyed it. She's technically dead in the Guardians movie, and let's kind of go on from the Gamora and Quill subject, so we don't really have to cover that anymore in this video because that will be a pain to just go through and just have to remember to do every bit and part of it. And another thing we get here is the Ravengers sending him to Ogo Corp, and then you get Nathan Fillion's character, which in my opinion was hilarious, and I couldn't have taken him in any other movie better than he played this character in Orgo Corp. And the High Evolutionary in this movie. I just want to talk about how he throws Adam Warlock and says no, threatens Aisha, just like we created you guys. And even as Gamora says, some corners of the universe consider the High Evolutionary God. And oh my, I can never hate like an MCU villain more than this, knowing what he did to our beloved Rocket. And just like, even towards the end, like when he's saying there is no God, that's why I stepped in, I have to do these things. Him just trying to play God is kind of a recurring theme in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe. Like Ronan wanted control over Thanos when he got that Power Stone. Ego wanted to destroy everything, create a brand new universe. It's just like they've done the same freaking thing every movie in different styles, different forms, gave off different vibes every time, and made a completely different way out of it. Dead Celestials, all of that are all tied into the Guardians universe, and it's not redundant. It doesn't feel redundant at all. Every time they do it, it feels fresh, and that's what I love about this plot they have here with the High Evolutionary. And since we're on the topic of Rocket's origin story, I'm just going to go ahead and recap everything. Rocket's selected, Rocket gets experimented on, and honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to say this without making it sad, but pet and animal lovers, like, disclaimer for this movie for sure, because the way they just experiment and to hurt Rocket is like terrible. And seeing how Rocket is smarter than the High Evolutionary when he solves that, and he says angry turtle fist, and I just thought that was such cool. And you had the angry turtle people, and when Rocket finds out that he's not getting moved to the new world, he's just like sad. He figures out his wits. He builds that key, which is what he was holding in the beginning of the movie that he kept pulling out of his pocket, making us as the audience just now realizing that that has dawned on Rocket ever since the day that Lila, Teves, and Floor had died. Because at the end of the movie, when Rocket died before he came back, when he just kind of died, he saw Lila in heaven, and he said, and just the way he was so sad about it was just so like giving off that Rocket has thought about it ever since that day had come. And that's just some evidence that was kind of given off in that scene with Lila at the end of the movie. And now I want to just talk about the most stressful scene in the MCU. The scene with where Rocket's just screaming verbally, realizing that Lila got shot, and then he just starts scratching up the High Evolutionary's face, and all you can hear is Teves in the background. Rocket, Teves, Floor go now. All the sound and emotion that Rocket's giving off, him screaming, Floor screaming, everyone in there just shooting, gunshots firing, the sounds of animals whimpering. It's just such a crazy mixture of emotion, but yet it works, and it's so sad, and it kind of stresses. It really did stress me out sitting in the theater watching that. And when Rocket turns around, and when I saw Teves and Floor were dead, bro, that kind of, I was like shocked that they just did that. Like, that is some of the most violent stuff that Marvel has ever been. But now that we're done with that, we can move on to the Ravager stuff in Orgo Corp. We just see more of Star-Lord's charming character, the way he's like, I told you she was into me, and him just trying to get Gamora, and then you have Nebula over here just like, what is going on? And Gamora's like, well, shoot that one that looks like a carrot to show them that we're not playing around. And Mantis, I was not a big fan of her when she first got introduced in this movie. I mean, ever since Endgame and Infinity War, I've actually grown to like her character. I was not. Her in the holiday special kind of fleshed her out, which made me like her more, with the shocking twist that Quill is her brother. So, therefore, like Mantis, I don't know if that's what made her a cooler character. But in this movie, she's just kind of funny. The way at the end of the movie, she's like, I want to start my own story. I'm done with helping you guys because ego enslaved me. And then she went out on her own because Mantis was a great member of the Guardians of the Galaxy in this movie. I think this movie wouldn't have been as good without her. I don't know about you guys, but I just think that she was an awesome character. That Mantis was just so cool and so funny and like, I don't know, like I never loved Mantis as much as I loved her in this movie. But what I want to talk about next has to be the Orgo Corp fight when Drax just gets shot and they get what they need and they expose the files of what happened to Rocket, and Nebula is just like, no wonder he doesn't want to talk about it. This is worse than what Thanos did to me. In her exact words. That is what she said. Just giving off, we did not see fully what was going on in that video, but if we know what happened to Nebula, Thanos took her apart piece by piece. What did the High Evolutionary do to Rocket? What did the High Evolutionary, like that, like just so confused me. I was just like, I hate this man now. He did that to such a beloved character. And one thing I do want to point out is that during the meantime of them trying to get in, Orgo Corp, they played In the Meantime by Space Hog, which played in the first trailer of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, the next thing that I do want to talk about right here is... Oh, dang, I'm blanking today, guys. But the next thing that I do kind of want to talk about and get into right here is just them getting back on the ship and trying to fix Rocket. And they realize they go to Counter Earth. Counter Earth, in my opinion, is a cool part of this movie, and we learn its origin because the High Evolutionary sends all those creations that Rocket figured out how to get the proteins in to that Earth. So this Earth is like supposed to be perfect, but it's destroyed, as we even say. Nebula says this place is nowhere near perfect. And the fact that Nebula wants to call the Ravengers and go home, she even sends a little like transmission giving the Sovereign her location. And that when they do find her, this is like they land. There's the Nato thing we saw in the trailer that is Drax hitting that little girl in the face with a dodgeball. And it's just like a funny little scene. We get in the house, we see them talking and everything going on, asking who that guy is and that he's in the pyramid. And yeah, I'm blanking today, guys. I'm so sorry, but so they go chasing after that guy, and that drawing is just kind of the dumb, fun, stupid humor that this movie has that I absolutely love. And it's just so, like, I don't know, I miss this, man. Like, I missed this kind of MCU. The Guardians of the Galaxy is just what I missed, I'm pretty sure. But now we just have more of this. And here's where I do want to talk about Groot's character has been a little fleshed out as we see that he's mad that Rocket's gone because Rocket raced him. His last words before he got snapped away in Infinity War was father or dad or whatever James Gunn confirmed it to be. I don't know. I've not looked at that video since I was like 10. So, So now that we're just talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I think Rocket is the MVP of this movie. And Groot, man, seeing him mad, seeing him pull out those guns and shooting all of those guards in there, and then going crazy and showing no mercy to that guy, having him fly on there and Quill and Groot just tag team John Cena. And the funny part about this is another irony I realized in the song was they played the song Reasons by by Wind, Earth, and Fire, and it was kind of the reverse. No, Fire, Wind, Earth. Fire, Wind, and Earth sung this song, and it was kind of the reverse in the sing because instead of Fire, Wind, Earth, no, Fire, Earth, Wind, Fire, Earth, and Wind. It went Wind, Earth, Fire, which started with Wind because they jumped down and then that guy got his face smashed in the ground and pulled out Earth, and then the Bowie having a bit of an explosion was the Fire, and that was just the irony in that song. We get to see like things like him trying to drive in Marvel's first F-bomb was like a huge deal. I heard this kid in my theater go, "Oh, he said the F-bomb," and yeah, it was just kind of like, I don't know, like this is a great like maturity and all that mixed in. Drax being a father and Mantis even saying he's stupid, but he's the only one who doesn't hate himself. He actually cares. He doesn't play poor, pitiful me all the time. He's the fun, goofy one that keeps us together. Talking about Drax and Groot in this movie, well, as I said earlier, seeing him when they think Rocket's about to die before he wakes up in his coma later on in the movie after they get separated. One's on the high evolutionary ship and one's not because they thought they were on the high evolutionary ship. Groot is like mad that Rocket's gone. Rocket comes back. And like seeing that, it was just so heartfelt and warming, and seeing them getting those pods and Dorito pods from the Lego set actually made sense now. And they played Happy Day or Good Day. I can't remember what the song's called. Saying like it's finally happened. No, this is the day, because this is the day that Rocket has woken up and it's just finally happened. And they go in, they have the fight, No Sleep Till Brooklyn plays. I'm trying to make this video shorter, so that's why the recap's going faster. And if you've seen the movie, you know how the High Evolutionary dies. And this, to me, is a reference to the movie Face Off. And as Peter kept saying, this isn't a trap, it's a face-off. It isn't a trap, it's a face-off. He knew it was a trap. He went in there to battle them face to face, as he even said, this isn't a trap, it's a face-off. Because he kept saying that. And at the end of the movie, just like the 70 or whatever year it came out in, Face Off with Nicolas Cage, it had them removing their faces and switching faces, and there was a lot of people without faces in the movie Face Off. But in this movie, well, he says that, and at the end of the movie, the irony in that is the High Evolutionary gets his face ripped off. And now I just want to talk about the ending, Cosmo's power holding it together, and all the little kids now living on nowhere with the Guardians now. And I want to go ahead and cover the endings. So if you don't know, as we get mentioned earlier, Quill still has a grandfather. So Quill goes out to lives on Earth, finds his grandfather. He's away from the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's now on Earth. Mantis, she goes off to do her own thing because, as she said, she once served ego, and then she did what the Guardians wanted. She wants to discover her own thing. Nebula and Drax are going to lead the city, and Quill passes down the mantle of leader of Guardians of the Galaxy to Rocket. And then we get them playing the song The Dog Days Are Over. And you're probably wondering, in the post-credit scene, it shows that the Guardians legacy continues with the new movie. But I think what the song is meaning by Dog Days is like the days where Guardians have to fight these tough villains and can never get out of dark spots are finally done for. They can finally just be a team that goes around and does missions for money and can be happy. Because as we see in that post-credit scene, we get the accurate-looking King Groot, which is awesome. Then we also get that girl in the top, one of the kids, Cosmo, which that spacesuit on her looks awesome, and Kraglin. And honestly, I adore this movie. Like I I don't even know where to start. Definitely a 10 out of 10 for me.